In the midst of Norway's rugged coastlines, at a time when the land was fragmented and kingdoms clashed, a powerful ambition took shape. The year was around 872 AD, and one man's vision was to change the course of history forever. This is the story of Harald Fairhair and the Battle of Hafrsfjord, where Norway's fragmented chieftains faced off in a final struggle that would shape a nation. The 9th century was a time of turbulence and warfare across Scandinavia. Norway, unlike its neighbors, was not a unified kingdom, but a mosaic of competing petty kings and warlords. Each chieftain ruled over their own territory, bound only by fragile alliances and the shifting sands of loyalty. It was in this chaotic landscape that Harald, a young and ambitious chieftain from the region of Vestfold, began to assert his claim for dominance. Legend has it that Harald's ambition was sparked by a promise made to a woman of great beauty, Gyda, who refused to marry him until he became king of all Norway. Whether love or power drove him, Harald's campaign was relentless and bloody. Harald's campaign to unite Norway took nearly a decade, as he waged war against rival chieftains and subjugated their lands. His strategy was clear. Through a combination of brute force and political cunning, he sought to break the existing power structures and bring the entire region under one crown. By the year 872, Harald had defeated many of his foes, but a formidable alliance of chieftains still stood in his way, an alliance that would culminate in a final showdown at Hafrsfjord. But what exactly led to this decisive confrontation at Hafrsfjord? What forces converged? And why was this narrow fjord chosen as the arena for Norway's unification? As Harald's influence spread, his success bred resentment and fear among the remaining independent chieftains. To counter his growing power, a coalition of warlords from the west and the north gathered their forces, pooling together men, resources, and ships. These leaders, men like Tjotvi the Rich and King Erik of Hordaland, had ruled their lands long before Harald's rise, and had no intention of yielding their thrones to an upstart king from the south. These chieftains were not simply fighting to defend their land, they were defending a way of life. Each king had built his own network of power through family ties, mutual defense pacts, and trade agreements. The rise of a single ruler threatened to overturn these systems. Harald's ambitions were not just about conquest, they were about unification under one law and one crown. His vision, if successful, would centralize authority and fundamentally alter the power dynamics of the region. This was a vision that many chieftains could not and would not accept. But why Hafrsfjord? Why this narrow, unassuming body of water? Hafrsfjord was not just a geographical choice, but a tactical one. The fjord's narrow inlet and steep cliffs made it a natural choke point, ideal for a decisive naval battle. Control of this waterway meant control of the vital trade routes and the heartland of the Western Territories. Harald, known for his naval prowess, understood the value of this strategic position. By securing Hafrsfjord, he would not only trap his enemies, but also deliver a psychological blow by taking control of a symbolic gateway to the west. His opponents, however, sought to lure Harald into a confrontation here, believing that the confined space would nullify his numerical advantage. As the call to arms spread, warriors from all over Norway gathered under their respective banners. The fjords echoed with the sound of oars cutting through water, and war cries rang out under the dark skies. Longships, equipped with shields and warriors clad in iron and leather, set sail towards the impending clash. For Harald, victory at Hafrsfjord would mean the culmination of years of bloodshed and the realization of his dream. Defeat was not an option, for the price was not only their kingdoms, but the very fabric of their identities. The stage was set, and as dawn broke, the water shimmered with the reflections of hundreds of warships. Now, the battle for Norway's future would begin. As the sun began to rise over Hafrsfjord, the two fleets drifted into position. The air was thick with tension. The silence was broken by the blast of a war horn, the signal to attack. The fjord erupted into chaos. Harald's forces, outnumbering the coalition, moved aggressively, forming a tight formation to counter the coalition's attempts to outflank them. The chieftains' ships were arranged in a semicircle, aiming to encircle and crush Harald's center. But Harald's strategy was bold and unconventional. He ordered his longships to spearhead into the enemy lines, breaking through the formation with brute force. The clashing of wood and metal echoed across the fjord as longships collided, warriors leaping from ship to ship. Arrows rained down, piercing shields and flesh alike. Harald's warriors, hardened from years of conquest, fought with a savage intensity, pushing back the coalition forces with every swing of their axes. But the coalition was no mere rabble. Led by veteran leaders like Tjotvi the Rich, their warriors stood firm, defending their positions with determination. Tjotvi himself, commanding from the front, rallied his men to hold their ground, his voice carrying over the tumult of battle. The fighting was brutal and unforgiving. Ships locked together became floating battlefields where shields shattered and blood stained the decks. At a critical moment in the battle, Harald deployed a reserve fleet, hidden from view in a nearby inlet. These fresh reinforcements, unwearied and eager for blood, charged into the fray, striking the coalition's rear. In the ensuing chaos, Harald's personal longship smashed into Tjotvi's command vessel. The two leaders' eyes met across the melee, and in that instant, Tjotvi made a desperate choice. Sensing that the battle was lost, he ordered a retreat and steered his ship towards the shore. Leaping onto the rocky beaches of Ytreberget, a small peninsula jutting out into the fjord, clambering over the rocky terrain, Tjotvi urged his men to move south, hoping to evade capture and regroup with any surviving allies. Hafrsfjord belonged to Harald. His victory marked not only the end of the old order, but the beginning of a new era. From this day forward, the path to unification was clear. Harald would now pursue his remaining rivals, solidifying his power and forging the kingdom of Norway. But what were the consequences of this monumental victory? How did the Battle of Hafrsfjord reshape Norway's history? And what did it mean for those who lived in its wake? As the morning mist lifted over Hafrsfjord, the full extent of the battle's devastation became clear. The fjord, once a tranquil body of water, was now littered with the remnants of war, shattered shields, broken weapons, and the lifeless bodies of warriors who fought for a cause they believed in. But the true impact of this battle would not be seen in the number of dead or the wreckage left behind. It would be felt in the way it shaped Norway's future. With the coalition shattered and its leaders scattered, Harald wasted no time in asserting his rule over the remaining territories. One by one, the petty kings of Norway either swore fealty or faced the sword. Harald's consolidation of power was swift and decisive, as he crushed any resistance that dared to rise against him. Harald's victory at Hafrsfjord allowed him to lay claim to the title King of all Norway. This marked the beginning of a centralized monarchy, where once fractured loyalties and regional identities were subsumed under a single crown. But the process was far from peaceful. Many who survived the battle fled abroad, some joining the ranks of Vikings raiding the coasts of Europe, while others sought new lives in Iceland and the British Isles. The unification of Norway brought with it profound changes to the political and social landscape. Regional chieftains lost much of their former autonomy, and local power was replaced by a royal authority that demanded allegiance and tribute. New laws, introduced under Harald's rule, aimed to create a unified legal code that could bind the disparate territories together. However, these changes were not universally welcomed. The price of unity was high, and dissent simmered beneath the surface. Many chieftains and their followers, unwilling to live under Harald's rule, chose exile over submission. They set sail across the sea, bringing their traditions and way of life to new lands. Iceland, in particular, saw an influx of settlers, men and women who preferred freedom in a harsh and untamed land over servitude in a unified kingdom. This wave of migration would leave a lasting mark on the cultural and genetic makeup of the North Atlantic, spreading the influence of Norwegian settlers far beyond the homeland's shores. Harald's reign, marked by both conquest and consolidation, would lay the foundations for the Kingdom of Norway. But his unification came at a price, one that would echo for generations. In the years that followed, Harald struggled to maintain control over his newly acquired territories. An internal strife among his descendants would fracture the kingdom once more. Nevertheless, Harald Fairhair remains a towering figure in Norwegian history, a symbol of ambition, strength, and the vision to forge a nation from the ashes of conflict. His legacy is enshrined in sagas and legends, and the very place where he fought his greatest battle, Hafrsfjord, stands today as a reminder of his enduring influence. Today, the memory of Hafrsfjord lives on, not just in the pages of history books, but in the hearts and minds of Norwegians. The Sword and Stone Monument, designed by the sculptor Fritz Rode, commemorates the battle's significance. It has become a symbol of strength, unity, and the enduring spirit of a people who would not bow easily. While we may never know the exact details of what transpired that day, the story of Hafrsfjord remains a powerful reminder of the past and a source of inspiration for the future. For many who come here, it's not just a memorial, but a place to connect with their heritage. The site has become a focal point for cultural events, historical reenactments, and celebrations of Norwegian identity. The Battle of Hafrsfjord may be shrouded in legend, but its impact is very real. Today, the fjord stands as a testament to a pivotal moment in Norway's history.